You've seen the movies, right? The robot that suddenly develops feelings and the whole story changes? You've probably wondered, could that actually happen? It's a classic sci-fi question. But what if I told you the answer wasn't in a movie script, but in a PhD dissertation? Let's dig into what the research actually says.
So, according to some really groundbreaking research in artificial general intelligence, the answer is a surprising yes. But, and this is a big but, you gotta throw out all those Hollywood ideas of lovelorn robots or vengeful supercomputers. This isn't about an AI feeling sad. It's about an AI using the function of sadness to think better.
Okay, so here's the crucial shift in perspective. We are moving from fiction to fact. We're leaving behind the idea of AI having these human-like subjective feelings, and we're moving toward the idea of emotion as a functional, engineered tool that actually helps an intelligence think and adapt. It's a piece of machinery, not magic.
To really get this, we have to bust the myth of the feeling machine. Because for a long time, the very idea of an emotional AI was seen as kind of ridiculous, even by the people building them.
Yeah, for decades, there was this major bias in the AI community. As one researcher, Shang Li, points out, emotion was basically seen as a bug, a messy, irrational thing that made humans, well, human. It was the exact opposite of the logical perfection they were trying to build. But that view is starting to change, because it turns out emotion might just solve one of AI's biggest problems.
And that problem? We can call it the resource problem. See, when you're trying to create a truly general intelligence, one that can operate out here in the messy, unpredictable real world, you run headfirst into a massive challenge.
That challenge is hiding right there in the definition of AGI. Look at that key phrase, insufficient knowledge and resources. An AI that only plays chess, knows all the rules, and has all the processing power it needs. But a true AGI has to make decisions on the fly, without all the facts, and with limited brain power. So how in the world does it decide what to even pay attention to?
And that is where emotion comes in. As this quote from the dissertation explains, an emotion module isn't for feeling, it's for directing. It's a system for automatically deciding where to spend its limited resources. It's the thing that tells the AI, hey, pay attention to this right now.
Just think about it. A purely logical machine, faced with a million things it could do, might just get stuck in analysis paralysis. It would be slow, brittle, and totally useless when something sudden and urgent happens. It needs a shortcut. It needs a system that yells, forget all that other noise, this is what matters. And that system, well, it looks a whole lot like emotion.
To make this idea really click, the dissertation uses this simple but really powerful thought experiment. It's a little story about a paladin named Troy that perfectly lays out what emotion is really for.
So here's the setup. We've got Troy the Paladin. His main goal, his #1 priority, is to get this doctor to the castle to save the princess. Pretty high-stakes mission. But of course, things go wrong. They're exhausted, they're hungry, and then, bam, a giant wolf attacks. All of a sudden, Troy has all these conflicting priorities. His mission, his hunger, his fatigue, and, his immediate survival.
Now, if Troy were just a purely logical machine, the calculation might be pretty simple. The doctor is vulnerable. The chance of them both dying is pretty high. So the most optimal choice to preserve the most valuable asset, himself, is to run. Save himself, maybe come back later.
But Troy isn't a simple logic machine. He's got a powerful emotional motivation, gratitude. Turns out, this doctor had saved his life before, and that feeling, it completely overrides the cold calculation. It elevates the goal of protect the doctor way above the goal of save myself. And so, he fights.
And they win. Now Troy's wounded, he's in pain. Logically, his internal state is just a bunch of negative error signals. But then another emotion, joy, maybe relief, from seeing the doctor safe, it overrides the physical pain and he smiles. Emotion is constantly reprioritizing his entire internal world.
So this story basically gives us emotion's real job description. In the story, fear focused his attention on the wolf. Gratitude created the motivation to fight against the odds. These feelings pushed aside lower priority goals like hunger and fatigue and let him take fast, decisive action in a super complex situation. It's a resource allocation system. That's it.
Okay, so if that's the why, what about the how? I mean, how do you actually build this functional emotion into an AI? Well, you turn to psychology and you translate it into an engineering blueprint. The research uses a framework from a cognitive psychologist named Richard Lazarus. It breaks the whole emotional process down into 3 simple steps.
First up, appraisal. Does this new piece of information affect my goals? If the answer is no, you ignore it. If yes, you move to step 2, regulation. All right, how important is this? How should I shift my attention and my internal resources? And finally, coping. Based on this new priority, what action should I take?
And this isn't just theory. This 3-step process was actually implemented in a real AGI system called NARS, which stands for Non-Axiomatic Reasoning System. This stuff is being built and tested.
Now, before this emotional model was added, the NARS architecture had a bit of a problem. It had just one single buffer, like one big inbox, for all incoming information, both from the outside world and from its own internal thoughts. This could cause serious delays and confusion, kind of like trying to listen to 2 different conversations at the same time. So they re-architected the whole thing. The new version has 2 buffers, one for external events, one for internal thoughts. And this new structure is designed specifically to support that 3-step emotional process, letting the system rapidly appraise new events and reallocate its resources before they get mixed in with everything else. It's a design that literally hardwires in a focus mechanism. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway. The goal of all this research isn't to make AI scarier or more human-like in some sentimental way. It's about making it smarter, more effective.
The whole point of giving an AI a functional emotion system is just to make it better at its job. It's to create systems that are more robust, that can adapt when things get weird. It's to enhance their autonomy, improve their reasoning, and ultimately make them better tools for solving really complex real-world problems.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating final thought to chew on. If this research is right, and emotion isn't just some messy, irrational bug, but is actually a highly evolved biological mechanism that's essential for intelligent thought and survival, what does that say about our own feelings? Maybe that wave of anger or that burst of joy isn't a distraction from rational thought. Maybe it's a crucial part of it.